I'm really happy today to have Erna Hreinsdottir online for this dialogue. You're a creative director from Iceland that has so many projects going on. You might talk about it after, but photography is a big part of your creative mindset. And I discovered your work simply through Instagram, and I'm super happy that you accepted the invitation. So I'm going to directly dive into the main question of this podcast.
Okay.
What is photography for you? How important is it?
Photography for me, it's very important. It has always been in my life. It's something that I like do, and it's more like a need than a hobby, I would say. There won't go a day by that I won't create or take photos. I think it's how I see things. Like I've always looked at images and photography, and I started documenting it really early, like with looking at magazines, and where I would really fall in love with the images and cut them up and paste them on my wall, and that's probably how I fell in love with it,
Telling stories or reminding you of your happy moments, or
just beautiful images that are kind of like escapism. It's just falling in love with images. I would cut out my favorite images from magazines such as like music magazines or fashion magazines, and my wish was to be able to recreate that one day. And I didn't necessarily know how or when or why, but it was definitely like something that I connected with, and I would cut out images and put them on my wall, and like daydream about maybe the scenes that they were in, or the fashion or whatever they used to be creative. It was definitely something that really spoke to me, but that was like something that set the tone for my interest.
Actually, you were actually already being a creative director in some ways.
Definitely.
And how did you start taking your own pictures, actually, and why? If you were comfortable with cutting others, being part in the finalizing of others' work, how did you start taking your own pictures?
I started with I just found an old camera at my home, and I think it was my mom's camera. It hardly worked, and I took the camera out, and sometimes I would gather my friends and direct them in a pose, or find like an old building or wall with like graffiti on it, or like try to recreate like those cool images that I saw in the magazines. And sometimes the film, it was a film camera, sometimes it would like see the light of day, or sometimes it would never go to development. But it's just like something that I needed to try and figure out.
For me, you tell stories, so and they're often, I think there's lots of humor.
That's important.
It can be a little bit sarcastic, I believe too. But when you choose those pictures, because I guess you take other pictures. I know you posted recently some old film photographies, photographs, and how do you see this interaction? The necessity for you, or the pleasure of sharing, knowing some people who you actually don't know, like me, will enjoy it, and how do you see that interaction with others regarding your small stories?
Well, I just hope I do it mainly for me, and I do it with like humor, like you clearly it gets through. I'm not always sure. And I hope that some people will like it, and that's just like an extra. For me, it's mostly like a fulfillment of my need to let out something that I create, and that's just one form of it. I take probably like something between 5 and 20 images every single day, and I've some like tiny fractions of what I take actually ends up somewhere for other people to see. But for me, like, yeah, the humor is, that's just, I think it's fairly new in my images, because I think that comes with me only using Instagram as my platform at the moment. And I think there it's kind of easy to take risks or kind of use humor, because it's really like intimate or like personal, and a lot of people see it. And Instagram is kind of this world as well, like that's
yeah,
it's so like not real and real at the same time. So I think it's very important to be sarcastic there as well.
It's kind of a fantasy space in many ways, I guess. Yeah. It's but what I find really interesting, obviously, yes, you studied photography, so that technically, I think we see it. It's the way you frame, the way you present, the compositions are actually, it's also part of your work. So it's interesting to have those both aspects, the kind of airy, entertaining way of showing and telling your stories and receiving it on our end. But do you think it actually, it brings, besides the need you have to express yourself in that way, do you use that for your own work, or do you see it as something that's kind of character changing for you, in a transformative way? Or
it is definitely like, it's personal. It's like a way to meditate as well. It's you know, the process of it is, it's kind of, you know, inwards, and it's both personal, just an Instagram account, and it's also something that it is an art platform for me, you know. And it's I think it's kind of fun and funny at the same time to use Instagram only as my artistic outlet, like for my side project at the moment. I think it's valid. Well, once it wouldn't have been, but now I think it's actually valid. It's a platform, and I can do what I want with it. And every image I put on there is serious for me. Like, I do really carefully choose it and think about it. I go back and forth with, you know, should I post it or not? Or is it like good enough? It's not good next to the previous picture, so I might have to wait with this one. And it's like a little, like a
creative gallery. Bubble. Oh yeah, gallery.
Yeah. Like in my professional life, I mostly work with other photographers. Either I brief them, or like sometimes my work comes from them, as in like a stylist or whatever. I've done that as well. And sometimes it's the other way around, and I recruit. And that's actually kind of funny as well, like to, you know, have my view and standing behind the photographer.
Is it intimidating for them, actually?
No, I don't think so at all. Most photographers I've worked with, they know me, and like, you know, my work, and it's not, you know, what we do together. It's usually like the work and outcome is supposed to be completely different from what I do. So I stay on my lane. They understand their role. So that's good. But I will be behind with my small camera or my phone, taking my own little pictures. But every now and then it's just a need to create and tell my stories. It's just something that I have to do. And then when I get into it, I'm projecting my own world out there with those images. And yeah, so when I get into it, I get a little nostalgic, and I feel the same feeling, and, you know, escape a little bit in my mind and create little fantasy world.
Actually, you talked about that being Instagram being a small gallery.
Mm-hmm.
It implies that you're building a really concrete body of work for your own art on your own terms. How do you see the future of this complete body of work? Do you plan on building something from it, a book or an exhibition or some kind of other project?
I always see my images as something that actually they would look good in a book or a magazine or like something printed, but they have to be tiny, just like the format, like the Instagram is like, these are tiny pictures. And that's something I love about it as well, is that they stay tiny. Yeah. And that's kind of something that I really like. I don't intend them to be blown up into big prints or anything. So I've thought about it a lot. And I have like, I always have 100 projects in my head. And you know, I would love to see them maybe printed one day, but like in a, you know, small format.
Yeah, a little bit like instant photograph, like Polaroids or things like this. One small thing I was wondering, how do you think people see your photograph? Do you think it has an impact on your friends or on everybody else?
I do. Because I have friends from like all over and all walks of life, and definitely not all of them are with a creative background. So I know there's a group out there that just, what the hell, Erna, why would you post something like that? Or it's just like, that's not how I would take a photo of a beautiful sunset, you know, like. It's a recent photo or something that I posted is, you know, it's a beautiful sunset, but it's like blocked by a poopy bag holder and with stickers on it and signage. But there's enough of pretty pictures of sunsets. This is my picture of a sunset, you know, and I don't think a lot of people will think it's pretty or beautiful or understand it, but at least it's something from me, and that's how I want to show them this, you know.
And honestly, I think it's pretty cool. Go check the links for those who are listening to us. Go check the Instagram account and follow your art and your endeavors. One small last question for the podcast: did you discover something recently, or have something in mind would like to share?
Actually, I have I got a little bit of I saw something cool the other day. I went to the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, and that's, by the way, Bilbao is the weirdest city I've ever been to. Perfect for taking weird photographs in. But I saw an exhibition by this guy here, Oskar Kokoschka. And if you look at that, you will also understand my.
Actually, I didn't make the link, but now that you talk about it, pretty cool. Well, I thank you so much for this small dialogue. And catch you another time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.